All right, what's up, everybody? Give a clap here just to clap it up here for the beginning of the show. Welcome everybody on Facebook Live. I have a special guest tonight. He's like, what do you call? You're like a motivator. You're like
I'm a podcaster.
Let's not make it fancy. He's a podcaster, but he's one of the best. He's a guy I went to a few years ago just to learn about podcasting. I got some great advice from him. This is like, 2-3 years ago.
Yeah,
it was a long time ago, and I listened to his podcast. He's very good at it. But he also does some, Growth Now movement. He does that type of stuff. He's always seems to be involved with helping others, and that's what life's about. And that's the part I like most about Justin Schenck. And I don't want to waste any more time. I just want him to get up here and tell you his story. And I'm just pumped for this experience for all of you and for all of you. Justin, let's go, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Dude, thank you guys. I'm excited to be here. Kevin reached out to me and he's like, hey man, will you speak? And if you could reply in a text, like halfway through a text, I'd be like, yes, I'm down, let's do it. Kevin's a great guy, so thank you so much, man, for having me. Just to kind of tell you a little bit about who I am now, and then we'll get into how I got here. So I'm a podcaster, like he said. I started podcasting about 5 years ago, and I've been fortunate enough to be ranked by Inc. magazine as a top 8 podcast every entrepreneur should follow. My podcast currently gets played in about 100 plus countries every single week, with 2+ million downloads along the lifetime of my show. And I've been able to speak all over the country on podcasting and business and my own story, which I'll share a little bit with you guys today. Obviously, I've then gone on to build a business around this, a speaking career. I host my own live events. I just did a retreat this last weekend, planning another one come October. And so there's been a lot of great things that came from this crazy little thing called podcasting. But the reality is life hasn't always been this grand thing where I was like, yeah, I get to speak in every state and I get to do these cool things and hang out with celebrities and do all this neat stuff. It started out a little rough, like a lot of people, right? And so if I were to go back till when I was about a junior in high school, all signs pointed to you've got no shot. I had a 1.7 GPA. By the way, anybody here had lower than that? Congratulations. I didn't expect the hand, but I'll take one. So 1.7 GPA. My mom was in the middle of a 20-year opioid addiction, and my dad was in jail. And so if you look at that, you literally have no shot. That's what society says, right? As a matter of fact, statistics say if your parent's an addict, you have a 50% chance of being an addict. And if your parent ends up in jail, you have a 50% chance of ending up in jail. Obviously, that didn't happen to me. I was pretty fortunate, but when I was 19 years old, I got introduced to self-development. Somebody handed me a book called Who Moved My Cheese that changed my life. It's a goofy title, like Who Moved My Cheese, super easy read, highly recommend everybody read it. But it's really about the idea that change is going to happen around us. It's about how we react to it. It's about the things that could potentially happen to us that are poor in our lives, whether your parent's an addict, COVID shuts down your business, whatever. That's the one thing that we can't control, but what we can control is how we react to it, right? And so as I went along in life, I really latched on to mentors and people who could help me kind of figure out life a little bit, right? And there was ups and downs and depressions and sadness and happiness and success and failure, but I became obsessed with entrepreneurship. And I wanted to build a business, and I wanted to do it, this big grand thing. And the reason I wanted to build the big grand business is because I wanted people to say, hey, Justin beat the odds. Hey, Justin did it. Hey, look at the nice things Justin has. Look at the house, look at the car, look at the girl, look at all those things, right? That's why I wanted to do it. And so about 5.5, 6 years ago, I had an idea to start a podcast. And I was going to interview the top entrepreneurs in the world so I can pick their brains and figure out how they did it. Because at this point, I had 3 failed businesses under my belt, and I was like, clearly I'm doing something wrong. And so I'm going to have to ask the experts. And so the original idea behind this podcast was I was going to pick their brains, learn the secrets, I was going to implement it in my life, and I was going to go make millions of dollars and impress everybody. And what ended up happening was about 5.5 years ago, I was up in Cape Cod, Massachusetts with the guy who used to be my co-host for the show. And by the way, I always do a little asterisk and say that he's still a really good friend of mine, even though we don't do the show together. He might be watching now because I shared this out on Facebook. Zach, I love you, man. But with that being said, I was up in Cape Cod and I got that phone call nobody wants to hear. And it was my sister, and she called me and I answered. I said, hey, what's up? And she said, the doctor says you need to come. And I took a 7.5-hour drive down to South Jersey, walked into the hospital and found my mom intubated in the hospital bed. And that was the day she lost a 20-year bout of opioids. That was the day my life completely changed. Because I realized life was so much more than money and things and impressing others. Life was about enjoying the journey. And I went on a discovery path in my life of how do I enjoy the journey even if I'm in my rock bottom moment? How do I find happiness even when the things around me aren't going the way I want them to go? And so organically, my podcast took on that theme. And I started interviewing some of the top people in the world and not asking them about how they made $1 billion, but asking them about how, when they were in that rock bottom moment, what did they do? What did they shift? How did they get the things that they wanted, even when hope said, or life said, nope, it's not going to happen? How did you do it? And I realized that it's really about the decisions we make, the small decisions we make every single day, whether it's getting up early and not hitting the snooze button like Kevin's preaching right now. Like all those little things you can put into your life to really implement day 1, day 2, day 3, step by step to find happiness. And my show is called The Growth Now Movement, and what I realized was happiness is in growth. Happiness is in continuously improving every single day, even if it's 1%. How do I do that? How do I shift my life 1% every single day? And you're probably wondering, like, Justin, why did you go on this journey? Why did this become so important to you? Because I realized my mom didn't die because she was an addict. My mom died because she didn't love herself. Because she didn't think in that rock bottom moment that there was hope. She didn't think that she could overcome the sadness that she was carrying inside of her. And so I realized that happiness is an inside job that starts with me. And I ask a question from every single guest that I interview, and I've done 300 and I really should count one day, 360 plus episodes. I've interviewed, celebrities, billionaires, the big influencers with millions of followers on social media. I've done it all. I've talked to them all, right? And there's a question that I ask every single one of them. It's a two-part question. The first question is, what's your definition of success? The second part is, what are 3 things you do every single day to ensure that success for yourself? The first part I realized was their definitions always varied, right? They're always a little bit different. It could have been, success for me is seeing my kid happy. Success for me is the fact that, I can get up and say I'm healthy every single day. I'm able to move my body every single day. Success for me is whatever. And so I ask you guys to think in your head, what's success for you? Truly, what's success for you? Because the question that comes up a lot is when I ask that question, a lot of times I hear what they think they want me, like I hear what they think I want to hear instead of what they actually feel, right? Because you've gone your whole entire life with the world telling you what you should have, what you should desire, what you should consider success. But the question is, what do you consider success? For me, it's the ability to do what I want, when I want, with who I want. That's it. That's not defined by a dollar amount. That's not defined by anything other than me making my own choices every single day. So the second part of that question is, what are 3 things you do every single day to ensure that success for yourself? And this is where I realized the common theme. The things they did were different, right? Some guys said, hey, I make sure I work out every day, I meditate every day, I read every day. Some people say, I exercise every day, I spend time with my wife every day, whatever, every day, right? So it's always a little bit different, but what I realized was every single thing that they did in those 3 things was for themselves. It's for that inner work. And here's the golden nugget I took away from that as well. The most selfless thing you can do in life is to be selfish. I'm going to say that again. The most selfless thing you can do in your life is be selfish. Here's why. You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't give to others if you have nothing to give. You can't be there for your loved ones if you have no breath to breathe. Does that make sense? Right? And so I started to instill these little things into my life pretty early on in the podcast. What can I do every single day to ensure my success? What can I do every single day to make sure I'm healthy? To make sure I'm moving forward in my business? To make sure that I'm moving forward in my relationships? Right? And I've implemented over the last couple of months, more 6 months to a year, the 4 pillars of life. And I realized that these are the 4 pillars that we need for success and happiness and fulfillment in our life. Number 1 is business or career, right? Some sort of financial success, which means our bills are paid. Not the luxury stuff, but our bills are paid, right? Number 2, relationships. We need strong relationships with people who support us, whether that's a friend, a loved one, a significant other, family members. Relationships need to be poured into every single day. Our wellness. We need to stay healthy. Look, if we're going to find happiness in this life, we want to live for a long damn time, right? So we better be healthy. Let's focus on our wellness and spirituality. That's the 4th one. And spirituality is however you define it. I don't care whoever you're praying to. The first goal is to understand that something is more powerful than you in this life. The second thing is to understand that there's an energy flowing around us no matter where we are, who we're with, there's always an energy. And we have to make sure we are working towards that energy working for us instead of against us. So those are the 4 pillars I focus on every single day. Here's how I do it. Number 1, I take a walk every single day. Even through 75 hard and a hurt Achilles tendon, as you saw me limping up here, I take a walk every single day, right? At least 30 minutes with my girlfriend. It was 45 during 75 hard. That gets my body moving. That gets my mind right when I wake up in the morning, right? I have a cup of coffee, then I go for the walk. Number 2, I learn something new every single day, whether that's from a YouTube video, a podcast, a book, interviewing somebody that I get the opportunity to interview, whatever. I learn something new every single day. The third thing is I visualize. I visualize something every single day, whether it's small or big. I visualize and get clear on that vision that I want for myself. And number 4 is I pour into a relationship with somebody that I care about, right? It could be a friend, it could be somebody that I've built a relationship with business over, but I'll reach out to them and I'll do something as simple as, hey, just wanted to check on you, make sure everything's okay. And what that does for me is it really begins to build those relationships that in the long run, when I need something, people are there for me. So those are the 4 things. Who here does any sort of visualization practice? I know you guys do a lot of. So Kevin, I want to walk you guys through a visualization practice. So you're going to have to trust me on this one, right? So I want you guys to close your eyes. That's the trust part. I have to stay in. Yeah, with Kevin. Yeah, trust Kevin too. I have to stay in shot of the camera, so I'm not coming over there. But close your eyes. I'm going to walk you through a visualization practice, and this is something I do every single day to understand where I'm going in life. Now I want you guys to picture yourself at your final destination, whether that's your vacation home, your boat out on the river, with your significant other, with your kids, with whoever. Find yourself in that final destination. And in that final destination, you've accomplished everything you've ever set out to do in your life. Every single thing. From this day to the end, you've accomplished every single thing that you've set out to do. What would that feel like on the inside? What would your significant other or your loved ones be saying to you? How proud would they be? What's their embrace feel like? What's the room smell like? Are they laughing? Are they crying out of tears of joy? Are they hugging you harder than ever? What's it sound like? Are there birds chirping, music playing? Are you partying with the loud live bands? I don't know what that sounds like to you, but what's it sound like? And own it. Feel it. Feel it in your heart. Feel it on the inside. I want you guys to open your eyes. Now that's something I do every single day, whether it's the final destination visualization or if it's a big goal like my event that I had, Growth Now Movement Live, I would visualize it every single day. And I remember the day of my event, and this is how real I get, and I want to tell you why you guys need to do this every day. But I got so real about how this event was going to play out, and I had celebrity speakers. I had people come from 16 states in Canada to attend. I had dancers literally dance the speakers up to the stage. That's what I was hoping for today. Didn't happen. Maybe next time. But it was a party, right? I called it a day-long rock concert for entrepreneurs. And I knew every single thing. I knew the music that was going to play. I knew what I was going to say. I knew the topics. I knew how excited people would be. And I remember that morning somebody said to me, "Are you nervous?" And I literally said, "No, I've done it 10,000 times." Because that's how real I get in my visualization. And what happens with that visualization to get out of this woo-woo mess that I'm talking about right now, when we visualize, it becomes real, right? We hear that all the time. What the visualization does is it makes you so obsessed with that feeling that you guys just got to, that every single day it's easy to take that step forward. Every single day it's easy to move one step closer to your goal, one step closer to that visualization by taking those actions you need. And I'm not going to take too much more of your time, but I want you guys to really focus in on that feeling every day. Whether it's 10 minutes in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, whenever it satisfies you, do it. I do it sometimes when I'm driving and I'll set a soundtrack to it, right? I have a soundtrack to my life and people are like, "What are you doing?" But this is what gets me excited about the next phase, the next step, right? So I want to share a quick story with you and then leave you with some advice that my mom left with me. So back when I was 24 years old, I might have been 25, I had a business that we put together seminars and expos that focused on personal and professional growth. And we had some success for about a year and a half. We made a little bit of money, and it was a side hustle kind of thing that I was trying to build up. And we decided to take every dime that we made and poured it into a big business event. We hired a speaker to come speak. It was actually the winner of the first season of The Apprentice. He was going to come and he was going to speak, and we paid him a ton of money, and we spent a ton of money on advertising, and we ended up selling 3 tickets to the event. To add a second layer to that, those 3 tickets were sold through Groupon, and if you know how Groupon works, you have to cut your price in half, and then you only make half of that. So we spent tens of thousands of dollars, and we made about $70 in ticket sales. It was bad, and so we ended up shutting the doors to the business. And I called my mom, again, 25, this was my big hope, right? This is really what I wanted. And I called my mom and I said, Mom, we're shutting the doors. And my mom said at that moment, what a mom would say to her son, right? And she said, Justin, you're headed in the right direction. Keep your head up and keep moving forward. And hindsight has given me the gift that my mom shared the greatest information anybody could have ever shared with me. In life, there's going to be setbacks. In life, there's going to be hardships. In life, there's going to be failures. In life, we're going to fall on our face. But as long as we are headed in the right direction, we can get back up and we can keep moving forward. So I just want to leave that with you guys. Obviously, can open up to Q&A if you guys have any questions. But thank you so much for your time. This was a ton of fun, so thank you.
Yeah, buddy. Okay. For Justin, this is a good opportunity to ask some questions. Don't be scared. Come on. I can't believe this. Go ahead.
So, how did you get used to like public speaking and being so like smooth with the way that you talk and the way that you connect with people?
You know what's funny? In my head, it doesn't sound smooth, but this is the second time I heard this today, or in 2 days. So last night I ran a virtual training because I'm teaching some people how to do podcasting. And at the end, the guy goes, how'd you do that whole entire thing for 45 minutes, no interruptions? You didn't even say, I was like, I'm pretty sure I said, I'm going to go back and watch the recording. But for me, I haven't done any training. I haven't done anything like that. But what I do every time I go speak is I tie it to a purpose, right? And I think when we tie something to a purpose, it makes it a lot easier to get in there and just do it, to overcome the things, the fears, all that stuff, right? And so am I 100% comfortable doing this? No, I'm not. Like there's still an uncomfort level, right? I actually, a couple years ago, I spoke at PodFest, which is like a 2,000 plus person thing. And I wasn't in front of the 2,000, I'm not that cool, but I had a breakout, which was their biggest breakout, which was neat. So a couple hundred podcasters, and I was wearing multiple layers, like a t-shirt, another shirt, a jacket, and I was sweating through the jacket because I was that nervous. So I don't think the nerves go away, but it's tied to a deeper purpose. And so something that I've done in my life many times is something called the 7 layers of why. And so like if somebody were to ask you, and you don't have to answer this because it's really putting you on the spot if I did that. But you know, if I asked you like, what's your big goal in your life, right? And you tell me, I would say why. And you'd give me like a surface level why. But if you keep asking yourself why to that, right? Like say it's like I want to lose 100 pounds. Well, why do you want to lose 100 pounds? Oh, because I want to look good and I want to feel better. Well, why do you want to look good and want to feel better? Oh, well, because my son watches me and I want to make a good impression on him. Okay, why is it so important you make a good impression? And you go 7 layers deep, and whatever you do that scares you a little bit, if you tie it to that 7th layer of why, makes it a heck of a lot easier to step up and do it. And again, me learning something new every single day, that helps too. It makes me sound less and less dumb as the years go on. So that's always a huge win. But that was a really good question, man. Thank you.
Man.
Yep.
So you said that like you had failed businesses and stuff previously before you finally hit success. I was just curious if you found like was there a difference, a shift in purpose that you think created the success, or was it just the continual going through the hardships that inevitably led you to have the drive to get where you are today?
So yes, to both, right? I think it was the hardships, it was the failing and learning, right? Like what's the saying? You don't fail, you learn, or some it sounds cooler than that, but something like that, right? And so with every failure, I learned something. I started to surround myself with the right people. Like my inner circle is pretty ridiculous, and I don't say that to brag, but I say that because that's how I'm able to be successful. And then also finding that purpose too. Like there's a weird, and I've never said this publicly, and it's weird that there could be millions of people watching on Facebook, but if the worst moment of my life when my mom passed away, right? Because here's the thing, she had an addiction, but she was an incredible mom. So I was very fortunate that she loved me wholeheartedly, and I didn't have to worry about anything, and she supported me. But if that hardship of her passing away never happened in my life, I wouldn't be doing anything that I'm doing now. And there's like a weird sense that, like, every time I talk about it, I kind of step off the stage or wherever I am or off the podcast, and I kind of say, I wonder if she'd be okay with this, right? Like me sharing this terrible struggle that she's been through. Now, not to get too woo-woo, but I've got some friends that have confirmed that she's okay with it. But at the same time, we have to understand that purpose is usually tied to that rock bottom moment, right? And so when we find that purpose, it becomes easier to become successful. Like, it seems like it happened quickly, but I was podcasting for 2.5 years, and there were like 12 people listening, right? But I was showing up every single week because I tied it to the purpose. A lot of times people give up too early. So yes, I learned a ton, and I surrounded myself with the right people. And when I got into podcasting, I bought an online course, and then I became friends with other podcasters to learn how to do it. But the purpose kept me going through those hard moments. Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thanks, man.
Anybody else? No? All right. Well, I have to, of course, say something, and so I got to grab the mic so that you can hear me. But I always look for the transitional moment, because the transition is way harder than the transformation, right? That movement from, and I think I talk to these guys regularly about a decision. And I loved hearing you say, from that moment on, I made a decision. That's how I took it, like that you remember the moment of, okay, like this pain, intense pain, the most pain you're ever going to feel in your life probably, right?
Yeah.
This intense amount of pain happened, and I made a decision. You didn't have to make that decision.
Right.
You chose to make the decision. And I hope that's a part of the amazing things that he said that everybody here gets, and that some people that are struggling out there here, is that nothing happens without a true decision. We're really good at lying to ourselves. We're really good at BSing ourselves. But you made a decision, and then you went to work.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that. And something I like to share is, like, yeah, we choose when our rock bottom moment is. Like a lot of people think it's just the next thing. I keep getting hit. Well, it depends on how you look at it, right? So I've accepted the idea that life is happening for me and not to me. Does that change the things around me that are happening? No, it doesn't, but it changes how I view it, right? And so it wasn't perfect. It wasn't my mom passed away and I was like, boom, podcast blowing up. Sure. I actually went through a 3-month bender where I was blackout drunk 6 nights a week. And then I actually had a mentor at the time who she called me one day, and she's like, what are you doing tonight? And I said, I'm going out with some buddies. And she goes, no, you're not. You're going to sit and feel this shit. And I sat and felt that shit. And it was the next morning when I woke up. This was 3 months after she passed. The next morning I woke up, and this huge weight was lifted off my shoulder. It was a terrible night feeling that pain, but that huge weight was lifted off my shoulder. And then I went, okay, let's get to work. Mm-hmm. Like, there was a great clarity in what that was, because I finally allowed myself to feel that pain instead of going and numbing it out. And I think for me, like, that was a big shift to understand that we choose the rock bottom moment. So
did you feel in that pain, did that mean getting with her and talking to her about what's going on and truly what's going on inside, deep down inside? It was communicating it?
Yeah.
Like, hear that, guys. Hear that, everybody. Like, it's pain, it's communication, and it's moving on. It's not going backwards and reliving it all the time and paging back and trying to put yourself back there so you have yet another excuse to fail. It's pain, it's communication, connection, and let me move on and get to work. But I'm telling you, man, I've gotten the opportunity to speak to so many people like you that have a tough story, a painful story, and losing the most important person to you in the world. And I got to tell you, the most impactful stories that I hear, and the ones that are the most meaningless, they always come off of a large amount of pain. And the ones that decide that they're done feeling it, that they're done living in it, you're always going to have pain. It's always going to be in your heart, right? But done sitting in it and choosing happiness and choosing to do the work internally to move forward, like, those are the greatest stories. It's a choice. It's a decision. It was based on pain. It was based on communication. It was based on connection. Somebody called him. Every opportunity that all 15 of you have, every day, you had to wait to go through it to have somebody reach out and say, feel this. Yo, you guys have this every day. What are you doing with it? Who are you connecting with? Are you feeling the pain and moving forward and doing the work? Or are you living in it, wallowing it like a pig in slop? And that's what you did best, I feel, man.
Oh, thank you.
Because if anybody in here, there's a lot of people here that have a tough story. You had a reason to sit for a while, and I really, really applaud you for getting up and moving forward, and then having the resume to help another kid because there's how many kids these days that lost that don't have both parents due to addiction or jail.
It's true. And I'll tell you what, man. I mean, I think we're all here to serve or make some kind of impact in the world, right? And there are moments in our life where we're actually the wound is still ours and it's still a bleeding wound. And I always like to say a wound is for us to learn and a scar is to teach other people. And if you're not telling the story of those scars and those healing moments, then we're missing the boat. We're missing the thing. And it could, look, I'm one of the fortunate ones that I decided to make a decision. And I'm like, I want to impact the world, and the podcast has gone on to do that in some way, shape, or form. But you can impact the world by helping one person. Like when I launched the show and I was probably 30-something episodes in, like nobody was really listening. And I was kind of playing on my head, like, do I quit? Like, what's the point of this? It's a lot of work, all these things. And actually somebody reached out to me from Japan and said, because of you sharing your story on your podcast, I decided not to take my life. And it was in that moment that I realized this is why we share our journey. This is why we share our stories. Because like you were saying, we all have stories, right? This one just happens to be mine. So what am I going to do with that story? How am I going to write that ending? Because we're all chasing the same thing, and that's death. We're all going to die at some point, right? And so it's not the big accolades. It's not the millions of dollars. It's not the car. It's not the impressions that you make by driving the fancy car or whatever. But it's about the impact that you can make in your life along the way. Because when you're laying there in that coffin in the front of the church, you better hope tens of thousands of people are there to see it, right? Because you made an impact and an impression with the scars that you had to form over life in order to do that.
So powerful. I hope everybody got as much as I did out of this, man. I love hearing you. I'm really thankful that you're this close to come speak to these guys. And I guarantee you, like, if you made an impact on there, but in person, I guarantee you've touched them, and if not me. Like, because I love your story. I've heard your story before, but I could listen to it 100 times because of the work you did.
Thanks, man.
And that makes me proud to know you, man, and I'm really thankful for you.
Yeah, thank you for having me, man.
All right, y'all. Give him a hand. Oh, you got the real hand there. All right, y'all. Say goodbye over there, Justin.
Later.
Justin Schenck. Later.
Love it, man.
Good job.